Good morning, everyone. So we're back in Les Sables d'Olonne. It's 9 o'clock in the morning here in France, and I think that means it's 7 o'clock UTC. So sorry we didn't put a tracker up yesterday. It was Sunday, and we didn't get back until very late or very early in the morning on Sunday from Lanzarote. But it's good to be back and get things rolling into a system again. And before I go into the actual tracker, I just want to point out some of the objectives that the fleet are now trying to achieve going forward. Now that the film gate's over, you can see the fleet here. We left Les Sables d'Olonne way up there, and now it's all about getting through the Doldrums here, which is usually just a little bit north of the equator. This is the equator line here. That's the equator, and once you get over the equator, you can see you're coming into these southeasterly trades. And the Doldrums are the next real challenge for what's going on. That storm that was there, that little low pressure system has disappeared, and usually the Doldrums can be either, well, not usually, the Doldrums can be one of many things. They can be either organised and have a simple band of very unstable weather through here, or they can just disappear completely, and you can get the northeasterly trades coming right down to bump into it, and there's just a thin line of unsettled weather, or they can extend and be quite challenging with a lot of instability. And generally what you're seeing now is a bit of that. There's nothing organised here at all, so this is the real-time weather today, and remembering the equator now is running right along the bottom of the screen here, and so you can see that's more or less the Doldrums there, and Simon and Tapio are going to be the first ones in, and if we just start sliding it forward, you'll see what's going to happen. If we go forward 24 hours, there's 24 hours. A lot of instability up the back here. There's going to be variable winds to the rest of the fleet, but this instability area is sitting there, but the trades are coming up a bit. Okay, so you can see them sitting there. They've extended up. If we go through another day here, now they pop down a bit. Okay, so the trades have popped down. I mean, the Doldrums and instability area has popped down, and there's certainly a good airflow coming down towards the back of the fleet, so the tail enders are going to do all right. Simon and Tapio, the lead boats, they're going to be coming into this area of instability, and they'll slow down a bit, so you might see the tail enders start to catch up. And if we come through now, another day, that's the 29th, so 3 days ahead. The trades are down here. They're generally staying about the same. The trick will be whether Simon and Tapio can maintain some of this airflow and get to about 450 miles or 430 odd miles to this area here for them to travel between now and then. So that's about 3.5 days. So this is 3 days ahead. So you'll probably see them bogged down if this weather forecast holds. And the tail enders will be coming through here, and they'll be a little bit confused on what they're getting. If we go through another day, then that's a little bit more. 6:30. Did that upgrade then? I think it did. Yeah. Again, you'll see there's a bit of a light headwind coming here. So certainly by the 30th, I think you'll see the lead guys will reach the trades somewhere there. So we got about 3.5, 4 days, and I reckon they'll be into it. Once they get into it, then what happens is the guys from behind, this is on the first now, it's looking pretty reasonable, you know what I mean? So there might be a close of the gap. It could be harder for Tapio and Simon to get across there. We go through now to the third, that's 6 days ahead, and it's definitely come up. So by then, anyone left behind here, they'll be a little bit mixed up, but most of the boats should be through by then. And right at the end, bingo, there's this is what you'd hope to see when you're sailing down, enough breeze to keep sailing, and then you hook up here into the trades and cut across. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge, I think, overall for the whole fleet to get through this initial area of instability. It's a big doldrum sort of thing coming up, so quite frustrating times ahead for the fleet. Anyway, to come back to the fleet now, we'll get into this. What I was really trying to say there is that it's not going to be a friendly doldrums or weather for the next week. It's going to be very confusing. So if we go right to the back of the fleet, Arnaud got through, as you know. He's sailing well now. He's got a good solid breeze, five and a half knots. So that's cool. Damien's caught up with Ian Herbert Jones. I don't know whether you followed him over the weekend. I always for the non-sailors that are following this, there's a few things you never do, and one of them is sail away from the course. And Ian was doing that for quite a while here. He was sailing basically in a northwesterly direction, and with a boat it usually tacks, even badly it'll tack through 100 degrees. So instead of being on this leg, it would have been much better to be on the other leg. This was a losing tack here. Even if he tacked off badly 110, 120 degrees, he'd still be coming down generally on course. But for whatever reason, he'd hung it out there, and I think he's paid a bit of the price for that. But you can see the weather's very variable here, and Damon is doing well to be making 4.3. He'll probably slow down a bit when you move the weather forward. Elliot's basically stopped. I don't know whether you saw his tweets. He had a horror show yesterday with dead birds, 4 dead birds on the boat, and lots of locusts, and the Sahara dust and all the rest of it, all plonking on his boat. Quite a story. Jeremy's been doing pretty well. He's been pushing out to the west. He's got a plan, obviously, and it looks like it's going to pay off, because there is a definite trough down here of light to no winds, and he's going to pick up, I think, on this. He's making 3 knots at the moment, but you'll see he's going to come into this area where there's a bit more breeze, more so say than Goog. Captain Goog is 2.4 knots, so he's not got much wind. Ayrton and 1.2, and Guy Waits as well, they're hardly moving. Ayrton's doing half a knot, so they're stuck in the hole. Abelish the same. His tweet was 2 knots of breeze turned into 2 ripples on the ocean and went nowhere. We had a few people wondering what he was doing there when he was going north, if he was okay, but it was pretty clear that there was no wind. So he's fluffing around there looking for breeze. Kirsten 3.8, she got a bit of breeze. It's a good thing to go to the west. She's going to pick up a breeze and keep moving. Pat's still moving at 3.6 on course. He's heading down. So before we go and look at the leaders, let's look at what's going to happen to the weather here in the next 24 hours. So if we come across here, that's about it there. And you'll see all of them. There's another little low pressure system forming here, okay, and that's going to create the breeze, which will keep everyone happy. So Pat is on a winner here. He's on track. He's going to pick this up. He'll just basically speed up, as long as he'll probably figure there's a low pressure system here, because you'll notice the barometer changing as he's going down, and he'll see the winds holding, so he'll know he's heading straight to the centre. And I'm not sure where that's going to go yet, but and the others will all get breeze as well. They'll start coming down, at a reasonable speed, nothing, sort of super fast or anything. But if we then go through the next day, 48 hours, you'll see then Pat was heading down here. There's going to be a band of not much wind. Kirsten, if she comes out here, she could ride this through if they stay over to the west of the course. Jeremy will be the same. He's going to slowly come down now on that. And Abelish needs to get across to the other side, and I think he will. So, there'll be reasonable movement with the fleet. Coming back to the leaders here, coming back to real-time weather today, you can see it's softening off a bit, but they're both moving well. Tapio's 4.7 and Simon's 4.8. So we come through 24 hours there. Nothing's going to happen. It's going to get worse. So Tapio's right in the middle of this. He'll slow down a little bit, but he's got breeze. It's showing probably 10 knots there, which will be enough to keep going with his big kites. Oh, he blew his big kite out, so he'll be on another kite. Simon, he's possibly going to get a bit more breeze. If this is accurate, and these darker areas where there's less wind, then Simon might be doing okay here, more so than Tapio, because there's a bit more down in here. So all a bit confusing, but certainly I wouldn't get hung up too much on what the leaderboard's saying. It really means nothing at this stage. It's all about weather. You don't have to be the closest to the mark when you're seeing all this stuff. Oh, obviously, Tapio and Simon have got a bit of a jump, but even that may not be as dramatic as you think, because there's separation between the boats. But if you look at if you actually look at the reality of where they're going and what they're trying to achieve, if we go back on this one, okay, if we put the toggle in here, how much lead does Simon really have over the fleet? Okay, that's about a beam of Pat. And if I pull this back here to Simon and I straighten it up, because they're basically all heading down to the trades, 240 miles, so it's less than 2 days lead between Pat and Simon. Again, remember that magic 550. If we go on course, certainly the separation between Simon and Damien is still 730 miles. But in terms of the course, if we pull it down here, 650. So he's still obviously within striking distance. There's another 7 months yet. So everyone here is in the hunt for what's going on, but certainly Simon and Tapio have got to jump. And this group here might not be as bad as you think, because you can see this low pressure system is going to create this area of wind in this general area, which is outside of what Tapio and Simon have got. So you're going to see this group start to move a little bit more consistently than maybe Simon and Tapio. So they might close the gap as well. So it's still very much an interesting story. Remember to keep reading the tweets. That's where the real story is. And we'll see what